Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, friends. So, today we will discuss about a new topic, that is positive and expiratory pressure therapy, that is PEEP therapy. So, we have already learned about the mechanical ventilation, different types, and different modes of mechanical ventilation. So, uh, methods, invasive and non-invasive methods of ventilation. So, PEEP is one of the non-invasive method of ventilation. So, the PEEP is not a ventilation mode, but it is an adjunctive treatment or a technique of respiratory therapy which can be applied to all forms of mechanical ventilation, that is controlled, assisted, or to spontaneously breathing patients. So, PEEP is not a mechanical ventilation mode, but it is an adjunctive treatment or a technique of respiratory therapy which can be applied to all forms of mechanical ventilation or to a spontaneously breathing patients. So, next we will see the definition of PEEP therapy. So, PEEP is defined as the positive pressure which is applied during the end of expiration, which increases the end expiratory pressure to more than atmospheric pressure. So, normally during exhalation, the airway pressure drops to near to zero. But when applying the PEEP, that is positive and expiratory pressure, at the end of expiration, so the pressure falls to a preset level, that is to a range of 3 to 20 centimeter of water. So the PEEP means it is defined as that is a positive pressure which is applied during the end of expiration. So that increases the end expiratory pressure to more than the atmospheric pressure. Next, another definition, that is PEEP refers to the application of a fixed amount of positive pressure applied during mechanical ventilation cycle. So this is another definition of PEEP. So next we will see the two terms which is related to this positive and expiratory pressure or PEEP. First one is auto PEEP or intrinsic PEEP. So what is auto PEEP or intrinsic PEEP? So this is the incomplete expiration prior to the initiation of next breath, which causes progressive air trapping. So this accumulation of air increases the alveolar pressure at the end of expiration, so which is referred to as auto PEEP or intrinsic PEEP. So auto PEEP or intrinsic PEEP means it is an incomplete expiration prior to the initiation of next breath, so which causes the progressive air trapping. So that leads to the accumulation of air, thereby increasing the alveolar pressure at the end of expiration. So this is referred to as auto PEEP or intrinsic PEEP. So the intrinsic PEEP, which is caused by or it is occurs due to the incomplete exhalation, so which occurs when the expiratory time which is shorter than the time needed to fully deflate the lung. So this preventing the lung and chest wall from reaching to an elastic equilibrium point. So this thing is sometimes called air trapping. So usually in patients with chronic obstructive lung disease and bronchial asthma, so this intrinsic PEEP is occur during these conditions, that is in COPD and chronic asthma patients. So next is about the extrinsic PEEP. So extrinsic PEEP means which is applied by with ventilation, so which is applied by placing pressure limiting valve in the expiratory limb of ventilator circuit. So that is expiratory PEEP, extrinsic PEEP. So extrinsic PEEP means which is applied with the mechanical ventilation. So the extrinsic PEEP, which is applied by placing pressure limiting valve in the expiratory limb of ventilator circuit. So the extrinsic extrinsic PEEP, which prevent the end expiratory alveolar collapse and recruits the collapsed alveoli. And also this decreases the intrapulmonary shunting and improves gas exchange and improve lung compliance and allowing the this FiO2 to be reduced to a less toxic level. So normally during inspiration the alveoli expands and allow the air enter into the lungs for gas exchange, and also during expiration the alveoli contract. So but it does not completely contract or completely collapse. It contract partially due to the presence of lung surfactants. So this lung surfactant also decreasing the surface tension of within the alveoli. So thereby it prevents the collapse of the lung tissues. So this is the actual process occurs during normal process occurs during breathing. So in PEEP therapy, when the pressure is applied by the ventilator at the end of each breath in order to maintain alveoli open and to improve oxygenation. So next we will see the indications of PEEP. So what all are the indications of this PEEP therapy? The first one is the refractory hypoxemia due to any cause. So refractory hypoxemia is generally refers to inadequate external oxygenation. So that is the hypoxemia which respond to the usual oxygen therapy. So that is refractory, is generally termed as refractory hypoxemia. It may occur due to various causes. Next is intrapulmonary shunt. So this intrapulmonary shunt occurs when the blood flows through the pulmonary capillaries without participating in gas exchange. So it is usually seen in conditions like this ARDS, that is acute respiratory distress syndrome, and pneumonia. So here in these conditions the alveoli is filled with the fluid so that the gas exchange is limited at the alveolar level. So that is one of the indication, that is intrapulmonary shunt indication for PEEP therapy. Next is decreased FRC. FRC means functional residual capacity and lung compliance. So lung compliance is a volume change within the lung per unit of pressure change. So that is lung compliance. So compliance means the ability of an elastic structure to change its volume in according to when a pressure applies. So the volume may change. So that is the compliance. So it is a property or it's an ability of an elastic structure to change its volume when to a applied pressure. So that is compliance. So lung compliance is the volume change within the lungs per unit of pressure change occurs. So that is lung compliance. It is also an indication for this PEEP, that is positive and expiratory pressure. So next we will see what is this functional residual capacity. FRC means it is the amount of air within the lungs after a normal expiration. So that is the amount of air remaining within the lungs after a normal expiration is called functional residual capacity. So depending upon the gender, age, height, weight, this FRC may vary. So the functional residual capacity goes high with height and age. As age increases, the FRC also increases, and it may go down or it may decreases with weight, and it may decrease in smaller women than in men. And it also depending on the so during increased ventilation the FRC may increase, and also during exercise. So the tidal volume which may be raised by increasing the both expiration and inspiration, so that the FRC can be lowered by approximately 0.5 liter. So next is the another characteristics of this functional residual capacity, that is the FRC increases with the old age. It is due to the loss of elastic tissue. As an individual become older, so the elastic tissues within the lungs may lost. So that is one of the reason to increase the functional residual capacity in old age. And also in COPD. In COPD, the major pathophysiological changes occur in COPD, that is air trapping and loss of elastic lung tissue. So that is also increasing the functional residual capacity. Next is FRC decreases in some conditions, that is idiopathic fibrosis and different forms of granulomatosis and vasculitis. So next we will see some factors which is essential for keeping the small airways open. So what are the factors which is essential to keep the small airways, that is the alveoli, open? So different factors are there. So first one is alveolar pressure. So the alveolar pressure is the sum of the intrapleural pressure and the elastic recoil pressure of the lungs. So next one is the alveolar distending pressure. So alveolar distending pressure, so normally at the end of expiration the alveolar and expiratory pressure equilibrates with the atmospheric pressure, but at that time the mean pleural pressure is approximately 5 cm of water, which is less than the atmospheric pressure. So the lungs is within the normal functional residual capacity. So the alveolar distending pressure, which is calculated by, or it is equal to the alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure. So in normal condition, the normal alveolar distending pressure is 5 cm of water, so which is sufficient to overcome the elastic recoil of alveolar wall and also to maintain the normal and expiratory alveolar volume. So when an acute lung injury occurs, the recoil forces which is increased and also the decreasing the functional residual capacity. So that may affect the alveolar opening. So this is the second factor for which so the alveolar distending pressure, which is another factor for keeping the small airways open. Next is elastic recoil of the lung. So elastic recoil of the lung means during inspiration there is an elongation of elastic pulmonary fibers, increases the elastic recoil, and the elastic recoil of the lung, which is maximum at the peak of inspiration or at the height of inspiration, and minimum at functional residual capacity. So with the expiration the elastic recoil decreases and the bronchi become narrower and the flow resistance also increases. So these are the three factors which essential for keeping the alveoli open or the small airways open. First one is alveolar pressure, which is the sum of intrapleural pressure and the elastic recoil pressure, and alveolar distending pressure, that is equal to the alveolar pressure minus pleural pressure. Next is elastic recoil of the lung. So next we will see the physiology of this PEEP, that is positive end expiratory pressure. So PEEP that increases the alveolar end expiratory pressure. So when increasing the alveolar end expiratory pressure, that reinflate the collapsed alveoli and maintains alveolar inflation during exhalation. So that leads to the decreased alveolar distancing pressure. So the alveolar distending pressure we have already seen, that is, it is the difference between the alveolar pressure and pleural pressure. So when the reinflation occurs, the PEEP reinflate the collapsed alveoli and maintains alveolar inflation during exhalation. That leads to the decreased alveolar distancing pressure. That leads to the increased functional residual capacity by alveolar recruitment. So alveolar recruitment is a term which is describes that the re-expansion. In next slide we can see the definition of alveolar recruitment. So the alveolar recruitment is defined as the re-expansion of previously collapsed lung areas by means of brief and controlled increase in transpulmonary pressure. So the alveolar recruitment means there is a re-expansion of previously collapsed lung areas or the alveoli by means of providing brief controlled increase in transpulmonary pressure. So next, another term that is related to the alveolar recruitment, that is alveolar recruitment pressure or alveolar opening pressure. So it is the pressure necessary to open collapsed alveoli. So the alveolar opening pressure is always higher than the alveolar closing pressure. So in high level of PEEP, which is generally responsible for alveolar recruitment and prevent the de-recruitment. De-recruitment means it is just opposite to the alveolar recruitment. That is, when withdrawing the PEEP, there is a de-recruitment takes place. That is the collapsing of this alveoli. That is de-recruitment. And also maintains the alveolar patency throughout the ventilation cycle. So this is the about the alveolar recruitment and the alveolar recruitment pressure. So in the previous slide we have discussing the physiology of PEEP. So in physiology we have seen that the PEEP that increases the alveolar and expiratory pressure, so that reinflate the collapsed alveoli and maintain alveolar inflation during exhalation. So that leads to decreased alveolar distending pressure, so which leads to the increasing FRC, that is functional residual capacity, by alveolar recruitment. Next, that leads to the improves ventilation, so thereby increasing the ventilation, and that leads to increase in ventilation perfusion and improves oxygenation and decreases the work of breathing. So the work of breathing means it is the energy needed to inhale or energy expended during inhalation and exhalation of a breathing gas. That is the that is termed as work of breathing. So the work of breathing is more in some respiratory failure, hypoxemic respiratory failure. In this condition, the work of breathing is increased. So while applying this PEEP, so it increases the ventilation perfusion, improves oxygenation and decreases the work of breathing. So next we will see about the goals of PEEP therapy. So what are the goals of PEEP therapy? First one is it maintaining stability of alveolar segments. So the stability of the alveolar segments is maintained by increasing the functional residual capacity and preventing the alveolar collapse, and also by improving oxygenation, that is increasing the partial pressure of oxygen. Next is there is an increasing in functional residual capacity, that is increasing the gas exchange area and alveolar recruitment, and also reducing the right to left shunt. And so the right to left shunt, it is a type of shunt that is mainly seen in congenital disorders, so which occurs when the blood which passes through the anatomic channel of the heart that bypassing the lungs, so they are not get oxygenated, so that is the right to left shunt. So when applying the PEEP therapy, it reducing the right to left shunt. Next is avoiding end expiratory alveolar collapse. Next is improving the ventilation perfusion ratio. Next, a goal of PEEP therapy, that is a reduction in work of breathing. So that we have already seen in the physiology. So while applying the PEEP, it finally results in reducing the work of breathing. Next goal is reduction in inspired oxygen concentration to a non-toxic level, and maintenance of partial pressure of oxygen greater than 60 mmHg or saturation of oxygen greater than 90%. So these are the goals of PEEP therapy. First one is maintaining stability of alveolar segments. Next is improvement of oxygenation by increasing the partial pressure of oxygen. Next is reduction of work of breathing. Next is reduction in inspired oxygen concentration to a non-toxic level, and maintenance of partial pressure of oxygen greater than 60 mmHg or saturation of oxygen greater than 90%. So next we will see the effects of this external PEEP or extrinsic PEEP on various body system. So it has different effects on different body system, and mainly it is pulmonary effects, cardiovascular effects, and non-cardiorespiratory effects of PEEP include effects on bronchial circulation, effect on kidney, and effect on brain. So first we will see on what are the pulmonary effects. So the PEEP effect on the pulmonary system by first one is that is by redistribution of extracellular water. Redistribution of extracellular water. So PEEP therapy does not decreases the total lung fluid or the fluid within the lungs. So the PEEP therapy does not decrease the fluid within the lungs, but there is a redistribution of extravascular lung water, so thereby reducing the intrapulmonary shunt. So this is the major mechanism by the PEEP therapy, so thereby increasing the or improving the lung function. So the application of PEEP, that is positive and expiratory pressure, to an edematous lung that decreases the intra-alveolar fluid volume and facilitate the movement of water from the less compliant interstitial spaces to the more compliant interstitial space. So the less compliant interstitial space means that is between the alveolar epithelium and pulmonary capillary epithelium. So where the gas exchange takes place, then it from where it is the fluids or the water may move from the less compliant area or the less compliant interstitial space to the more compliant interstitial space, that is the peribronchial or hilar region, that is the more compliant interstitial space. So when applying the PEEP to an edematous lung, so that decreases the intra-alveolar fluid volume and also facilitate the movement of water from the less compliant interstitial space to the more compliant interstitial space. So in actually the when giving this PEEP therapy, it does not decrease the fluid volume, but there is a redistribution of fluid that helps to reinflate previously flooded and collapsed air spaces without decreasing the lung edema. So that is one of the effects by PEEP in pulmonary system. And next is increased functional residual capacity. So the increased functional residual capacity can be achieved by mainly by two different mechanisms. First one is increasing the volume of patent alveoli. So that is usually happens with the PEEP level which is sets below the about 10 centimeter of water. And next mechanism, that is opening up of previously closed alveoli. So that we have already discussed about the alveolar recruitment. So by these two mechanisms, that is either by increasing the volume of patent alveoli or by the alveolar recruitment, may helps to increase the functional residual capacity. So these are the two major pulmonary effects produced by PEEP therapy. Next is about the cardiovascular effects. What are the cardiovascular effects of PEEP therapy? So the respiratory system, which affect the cardiovascular function primarily by impairing the venous return. So when the cardiac function is normal, the venous return is predominant determinant of cardiac output. So the rate at which the systemic venous blood which returns to the thoracic veins, which is depend upon the transthoracic vascular pressure gradient. So the transthoracic vascular pressure gradient means it is the difference between extrathoracic pressure and the intrathoracic pressure. So the transthoracic pressure gradient is determined largely by intrapleural pressure. So the intrapleural pressure that is created mainly by opposing two forces. So the forces are lung recoil and chest wall retraction. So these are the two forces which are opposing the intrapleural pressure. So the diminished cardiac output with PEEP therapy. So that is the major effects produced by PEEP, this positive and expiratory pressure on cardiovascular system. So this decreased cardiac output, which can be caused by mainly by three mechanisms. First one is decreased venous return to the right atrium. And next is PEEP increases the right ventricular afterload. Next is transmission of increased alveolar pressure. So the decreased venous return to the right atrium. So when the venous return to the right atrium is influenced by difference in this central venous pressure and the negative pleural pressure that surrounds the heart. So these two factors may influence or that may decreases the venous return to the right side of the heart. So next is PEEP increases the right ventricular afterload. So PEEP increases the pulmonary vascular resistance. So at a higher level of this PEEP, the ventricular septal shunting towards the right, towards the left side of the heart, that is towards the left ventricle, may occur. So that limiting the distensibility of left ventricle. So in patient with the left ventricular dysfunction and elevated filling pressure, the PEEP therapy may improve cardiac function by improvement in coronary arterial oxygen content by reduction of venous return. So that is the second mechanism occurs while applying the PEEP therapy. So this diminished or reduced cardiac output is caused by PEEP, which increases the right ventricular afterload. So when the PEEP, which is increases the pulmonary vascular resistance, so when we set up the PEEP at higher levels, there is a chance for ventricular septal shunting towards the left side of the heart. So when that limiting the distensibility of left ventricle. So when a patient with a left ventricular dysfunction or elevated filling pressure, the PEEP may improve the cardiac function by improvement in coronary arterial oxygen content by reducing the venous return. So next is transmission of increased alveolar pressure. So normally more than half of the elevated alveolar pressure is dissipated by the lung elastic force. So the poorly compliant lung, less than half of the elevated alveolar pressure is transmitted. So the extremely compliant lung, which transmit a greater degree of pressure, that can lead to the hemodynamic consequences. So this is the third mechanism occurs in one of third mechanism, that is the transmission of increased alveolar pressure, that may results in hemodynamic stability by reducing the cardiac output. So these are the three the major effect on cardiovascular system, that is diminished cardiac output. So it may be due to the some of the mechanism, that is decreased venous return to the right atrium, PEEP, which may increases the right ventricular afterload, and transmission of increased alveolar pressure. So next is the non-cardiovascular or non-cardiopulmonary effects on. So in that, first one is effect on bronchial circulation. So the PEEP, which may interfere with the bronchial circulation by decreasing the total cardiac output and increasing the resistance in the pulmonary circulation and compressing the bronchial vessels perfusing the airways. Next is effect on kidney. So the mechanical ventilation or the PEEP, that is positive and expiratory pressure therapy, which decreases means so that decreases the renal artery perfusion pressure. So that redistribute the renal blood flow from the cortical to medullary regions, so which may account for the increased sodium retention. And also the PEEP, which decreases the atrial natriuretic peptide production by mechanically compressing the atrium or by decreasing the right atrial stretch due to the decreased venous return. So another effect on kidney, that is PEEP may cause inhibition of aldosterone production and also increasing the antidiuretic hormone. So by giving the low dose dopamine infusion or intravascular fluid hydration, that may improve the renal function. Next is effect on brain. So what are the effects on brain while applying the PEEP therapy? So because of the end expiratory pressure, which reduces the transthoracic vascular pressure gradient, and also the venous return slows down. So this decreases the venous return from the head. So it may cause the increased intracranial pressure and a decrease in cerebral blood flow, and also thereby reducing the cerebral perfusion pressure. So the spontaneous ventilation or an elevation of the head of the bed to a 10 to 15 degree, that may increase the transthoracic vascular pressure gradient and also decreasing the intracranial pressure and improves the cerebral perfusion. So these all are the effects on brain. So next is mechanism of application of this positive and expiratory pressure. So the beep can be applied by placing a pressure limiting valve in the expiratory limb of ventilatory circle. So we have to so the application or the mechanism of application of this beep is it can be applied by placing a pressure limiting valve in the expiratory limb of the ventilatory circuit. So this valve, which exerts a back pressure, and the exhalation proceeds until the back pressure is reached where the flow rate stops or ceases. So that is the mechanism of application of PEEP. So next is the use of PEEP, that is positive and expiratory pressure, in clinical setting. So we can use this PEEP therapy in different clinical conditions like ARDS, COPD, and bronchial asthma. So in ARDS, how the PEEP helps to improve the condition of in ARDS. So first one is promote the alveolar recruitment and redistribution of alveolar edema. So these two we have already discussed about the alveolar recruitment. So alveolar recruitment means expansion of the previously collapsed alveoli. So that is alveolar recruitment. So in ARDS, the PEEP therapy aims to promote the alveolar recruitment, and another use of PEEP therapy, that is the redistribution of alveolar edema. And next is in COPD. In COPD, what are the uses, or how this PEEP helps in COPD condition. So first one is that reduces the threshold load imposed on respiratory muscle. So when applying the external PEEP during assist control ventilation or a CPAP or in spontaneously breathing patient, which counterbalances and reduces the inspiratory load imposed by air trapping. So thus reducing the work of breathing, improving patient ventilator interaction, and reducing ineffective inspiratory effort. And also the external PEEP improves the ventilatory efficiency. So next, it promotes faster and more uniform lung activity. So the smaller airways tends to collapse at the end of expiration in patient with obstructive lung disease. So the application of PEEP, that is 5 to 10 centimeter of water in patient with COPD, might partially decreases the expiratory resistance, particularly at the end of expiration. So this may keep the airway open and promote faster and more uniform lung emptying and reduce the tendency for air trapping. So this PEEP does not reduce the air hyperinflation. So and it's so that is the hyperinflation means it may cause intrinsic PEEP in patients with COPD. So next is managing acute exacerbation. So while applying the PEEP therapy, the acute exacerbation in COPD patients can be effectively managed by giving PEEP therapy. So next is use of PEEP in acute respiratory failure, which is caused by edema or atelectasis. So the PEEP, which has two effects in acute respiratory failure. First one is increased functional residual capacity. So while increasing the functional residual capacity, that leads to the decreased shunt. The intrapulmonary shunt may decrease, so that improves or increases the partial pressure of oxygen. And another process which is occurring in respiratory failure, that is increased lung compliance, so thereby increasing the decreased work of breathing. So these all are the two effects mainly produced by PEEP therapy in acute respiratory failure patients. So next we will see the contraindications of PEEP therapy. So two types of contraindications, that is absolute and relative contraindication. In absolute contraindication, first one is hypovolemic shock, next is tension pneumothorax. And the relative contraindications include unresolved bronchopleural fistula, intracranial hypertension and low cerebral compliance. Next is recent lung surgeries. Next is chronic chest wall restrictive disorders. So these are the relative contraindications for PEEP therapy. So next we will see the complications of PEEP therapy. First one is decreased venous return. So that we have already discussed about the effect of PEEP in cardiovascular system. When the decreased venous return occurs due to the increased intrathoracic pressure, so that may decrease the cardiac output. So decreased venous return, decreased cardiac output. Next is barotrauma. So barotrauma is one of the principal complication of this mechanical ventilation or PEEP therapy. So it can be caused by over distension of alveoli by inappropriate or high level of PEEP. So this barotrauma may results in pneumothorax and pneumomediastinum and other pulmonary interstitial emphysema. So these are the complication of barotrauma. Complication or consequences of barotrauma. So next is increased ICP, that is intracranial pressure. So we know that how the PEEP therapy affects on brain. Next is alter renal metabolism and water balance. So these are the complications of PEEP therapy. Next is the management. So that is assessing and managing the patient undergoing PEEP therapy. So first one is collaborate with the respiratory care practitioner in explaining procedure to the patient. So we have to detailedly explain the patient about the procedure. And next is provide frequent reassurance and encouragement. So we have to frequently reassure the patient and give encouragement in order to reduce the anxiety and discomfort of the patient. Next is select an appropriate type of mask to use. So several type of masks are available, like including nasal mask, oronasal mask, total face mask. So we have to select the appropriate type and size of the mask which is fit for the patient face. Next is a selection of mask that is too large can result in leaks, discomfort, poor triggering and ineffective ventilation. So this selection of mask, appropriate size of mask, which is essential if we are selecting an inappropriate size of mask that may result in air leaks, and it may produce discomfort, poor triggering, and ineffective ventilation. Next, when the PEEP therapy is first started, it is recommended that the clinician hold the mask in place on the patient face rather than securing it with the harness. So, when starting the PEEP therapy, we have to hold the or fit the mask in patient face rather than holding or fitting it with the straps. So before that we have to position the mask, this mask on the face of the patient. Then we tighten the mask with by using the straps. And next is make sure that the patient is not hypovolemic before applying PEEP therapy. So we next is monitor the respiratory. So respiratory status frequently, including respiratory rate, tidal volume, SpO2, and also closely monitor BP for any drop in blood pressure. So before starting the PEEP therapy, we have to monitor the patient for any signs of hypovolemic shock. So if the hypovolemic shock, so if there is a chance for hypovolemic shock, so that may affect the PEEP therapy, because we know that when applying PEEP there is a chance for decreased cardiac output. So before starting or before applying the PEEP therapy, we have to make sure that patient is not in a hypovolemic state, and also it should be, if patient is in a hypovolemic state, it should be corrected with the appropriate fluid management. Monitor the respiratory status frequently, including respiratory rate, tidal volume, SpO2, and closely monitor BP for drop in blood pressure. Next is check for leaks around the mask and the presence of secretion inside the mask. Next is remove the mask and allow the patient to expectorate if needed. Next is inspect the skin over the bridge of nose for redness and ask the patient if there is any soreness over the area. Next is pad the area with a pad or a gauze, and to make sure that there is no too much tension on the headgear. And next is if a leak is present around the bridge of nose, assess the patient for eye dryness or irritation. Next is carefully evaluate the patient's ability to clear secretions. Next, frequently check signs for gastric distension. If gastric insufflation occurs, there is a significant risk for vomiting and aspiration. Next is hypotension. So hypotension occurs due to the decreased cardiac output or low BP. So it is frequently occur while applying. There is a possibility or chance for drops in blood pressure when applying the PEEP therapy. So hypotension can develop during PEEP therapy, and it should be corrected with the fluid administration. Next is documentation of the procedure. So the nurse should document the entire procedure, including the vital signs and the ventilator settings, and the PEEP level, a tidal volume, and saturation, SpO2, and the respiratory rate. So all, and the types or mode of ventilation. So all these should be recorded in patient's file. So this is the management of patients undergoing PEEP therapy. So till now we have discussed about the positive and expiratory pressure therapy, that is PEEP therapy. We have seen the definition of PEEP therapy, and indications, contraindications, and goals of PEEP therapy, and its use of this PEEP therapy in different clinical conditions, and the complications and the nursing management of patient undergoing this PEEP therapy. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.